Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 275, The Power of Decisions, Trusting Yourself and Living Your Why. Well, welcome back as we finish out this month, which has been all about self-confidence. And I can't believe this is the 275th episode. So I just want to thank you guys because, boy, that time has blown by so quickly. And I keep hearing from you guys just how helpful the episodes are, especially when you're going through it, when you're struggling to figure things out, when you're trying to understand what's going on in your personal growth journey, what's going on around you and why you're not crazy. And I think most importantly, ways you can really work on yourself to make your life better. So thank you for that feedback. And I want this community to be what you need so we can help each other. Okay, so we're going to finish out this month talking about an important aspect of self-confidence, I think, and that's making decisions. Now, we know decisions are the foundation of our life. They shape who we are and the paths that we take. Yet for many of us, this process can feel so overwhelming or even paralyzing at times. So many of you have talked about how awful it is just to go to a restaurant and have a big menu in front of you. So in this episode, we're going to dive into why making decisions is so essential to your self-trust and how reconnecting with what you think, feel, believe, and need can transform your confidence over time. And we're going to talk about the power of your why, the values and the passions that guide your choices, and how understanding this can make it so much easier. So first, I want to talk a little bit about the neuroscience of decision-making, because this stuff is not woo-woo. Decision-making actually builds trust in yourself because it engages that prefrontal cortex. The front part of your brain that's responsible for planning, for regulating your emotions, for problem solving, thinking things through. And what's really interesting, what we don't talk about enough, is dopamine's role. Making a proactive decision releases dopamine, which is why you feel better, because it reinforces the behavior and creates motivation for you to keep taking action on things. Now, granted, hopefully the first couple of decisions you make turn out halfway decent and they're not disasters. So I usually see that phenomenon happen with people when they follow their gut. So when you make repeated decisions, it's actually strengthening your neural pathways. So that's making it easier to face challenges over time, which is why you get stronger and more confident. The other thing that happens is that taking action actually reduces your stress because it's shifting you from reactive states, your limbic system, your amygdala-driven fear, to proactive ones, which, like I keep saying, moves you to the prefrontal cortex. And the sense of mastery, I think, that comes after a decision actually decreases cortisol levels and builds your resilience. And I think boundaries have a part in this too, because the perception that we feel safer because we've decided something. We've taken some healthy power back. So in other words, every time you make a decision, you engage your prefrontal cortex. And that process triggers that release of dopamine, which reinforces positive actions and keeps motivating you to continue taking steps forward. By choosing action over avoidance, even in small ways, you build new neural pathways that strengthen your brain's ability to trust its instincts and reasoning. How cool is that? Because over time, this rewiring cultivates confidence, and you end up with a deeper belief in your ability to navigate challenges. This is huge. And if you take nothing away from this episode, I hope you take this because this is really big. But why do we struggle to make decisions in the first place? Well, if we really have a hard time with it, we got to go back and look at how growing up with shame-based messaging, overt or covert, where you got the message that you really can't do anything right, or why do you even try, or are you sure you want to do that? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Can really undermine someone's confidence in their own thoughts and choices. Even if it's not directly about your decision-making, what if it's about anything about you? Whether you spoke up at the dinner table or whether you didn't. Whether you failed at something or didn't bring home an A or whatever, fill in the blank. All that matters is that the messaging came across that taught you to doubt your instincts and left you paralyzed by fear of making the wrong decision. I also want to add in here that any kind of manipulation and passive-aggressive behavior and gaslighting that happened at the dinner table can also do a big number on you trusting yourself. Maybe something awful went down in the family, but the family's pretending everything's effing fine and what's wrong with you. My point is, it doesn't take much. Even worse is trauma. And I'm not going to get into trauma in this episode, but I just want to say that we know that trauma is going to keep the brain in a heightened state of fight or flight or freeze. And it's going to make it a lot harder to access that calm, logical decision-making ability of your prefrontal cortex. So that is why survivors of trauma often avoid decisions altogether, because they're so afraid of failure, rejection, or triggering old wounds, or just not being safe in general. How can they trust? How can they trust the process? How can they trust other people? How can they trust themselves? And on and on. So if you have trauma in your past and you struggle with decisions, please be kind to yourself. Because in unhealthy or traumatic environments, guess what? We're going to learn to prioritize external approval over internal validation. That's where all this stuff comes from. It's survival, guys. If you're a little kid and that happens, you need approval to actually survive. But that survival mechanism we know creates a disconnect, which we've talked about many times here on the show. A disconnect from our own needs, our beliefs, what we value, what we really think. And if you can't access that, well, making decisions is going to feel like hell. It's actually going to feel foreign or impossible. So think about the last time you struggled with this, or you know someone who can't pull the trigger, can't make a decision. I want you to think about that. Instead of getting frustrated, have compassion and pretty much assume that that's an emotional trauma response. Because in adulthood, how this plays out is second-guessing every choice. Feeling paralyzed by fear of consequences, laying in bed, rehashing the day, going over and over and over again. Any of you struggle with that, where you're up in your head and you go over that conversation and you wish you would have done this and said that? Maybe you rely on others to make decisions for you, which is how a lot of traumatized people end up in power relationships where they hand over their power to someone else. Because the absence of self-trust leads to that constant state of self-doubt and anxiety. So that's a big deal. So we really need to think about decision-making and how it helps trauma and helps build self-trust. Decisions reflect, I think, what we value and prioritize in the moment. You know how they say decisions and beliefs are driving all our behavior, whether we're aware of them or not. And I think each decision we own reinforces the idea that, guess what? I can trust myself to figure things out. I can try things out. I can get the evidence back, like we talk about here. Then I can decide what to tweak, what not to do again, what went very wrong, what was actually okay, and why, et cetera, et cetera. And even if you made a mistake or it just didn't go well, you learned, and it becomes a learning opportunity that builds your resilience, and it helps you, I think, refine that inner compass. This is ownership. This is not looking outside of you for the answers. This is not perfectionism. This is not people pleasing. This is not trying to do what everyone else is doing. This is connecting to your inner voice. And that's what really matters. It's about clarifying what you think, what you believe, what you feel, and what you need. Even if you're not sure what those are yet. Don't worry about that part. Making decisions is one of the most powerful ways to connect with your true self. When faced with a choice, you're forced to pause and then evaluate what matters most to you. What do you think about the situation? What do you believe is right or important? What emotions are surfacing for you? And then over time, figuring out what underlying needs are driving those feelings, like the need to be wanted, the need to be accepted, the need to know that you're seen and that you matter. This reflective process, I think, and I watch clients do this, I think it brings clarity because it cuts through all those external influences and distractions. And over time, slowly but surely, helps you identify your authentic voice. Because guess what? Over time, each decision reinforces your understanding of yourself, and it builds confidence in trusting your inner compass. Because this practice silences that external noise. But guys, this is a process. And I talk often to clients with how this will be a mixed bag for a while. And some of it won't be pretty, and that's okay. All that matters is you're trying to not look out there and look within more. A big part of this, and if you don't believe me, think about the last time, it could have been 5 minutes ago, where you were really pissed or just passionate about something, shall we say, good or bad, doesn't have to be negative. There's a why behind that. There was a why you were pissed. There's a why you're excited. There's a why you're passionate and determined. Your why is your personal mission because it encompasses, I think, your values, your purpose, your passions, anything that drives you. That's what you want to drive your decisions. Your why forms what you believe, and usually, I think, is the core of your motivation to either think or do something, or not do something, right? Because it goes against your integrity. But when you're connected more and more to your why, decisions become a lot easier because you have a clear guiding star. In other words, you're not sure what the right decision is. You get to what the right decision is. They may not be an easy decision. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it'll be yours. And you'll know what the right thing to do is because you have guiding principles now. Do you see how connecting, reconnecting with the authentic self is such a big deal for everything? And here's the thing, what I personally believe is that has been deep inside of you all along. You just maybe haven't been connected to it. How do you identify your why if you're just not sure or haven't done it in a long time? Like maybe you've been in a situation where you kind of lost yourself. Throughout your day, just keep asking yourself when something comes up, a thought, a feeling, a situation, ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Like, where is this all coming from? Maybe on a different day, you say, you know what really brings me joy and fulfillment or peace? What lights a fire under my butt? What gets stuck in my craw and why? Like, what am I willing to fight for or protect? Those of you who have kids, that's an easy one for a lot of you, like anything for my kids, right? Journaling, reflection, talking with like-minded folks, working with a coach is a really great way to start uncovering your core values and your passions. And paying attention to how you talk about stuff. Pay attention to how other people do it too, and try to just, quietly figure out what matters to them. Like, how can I tell, right? So then really getting in touch with your why. And this could bring up some grief work. That's why I really do encourage to get some support around this work, because it could trigger some stuff for you that might need to come up and be healed. Like, there might be very good reasons why you want to fight for something, but that could be born out of a wound. And that's okay. That's actually really powerful. I mean, when we think about people who are out there leading causes, it's because something happened, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving or people that fight for the environment or whatever. A lot of times they had something happen to them. So then you want to start aligning your decisions with your why, okay? When decisions are aligned with your values, you start to feel lighter, you might feel more energized, even when they're tough decisions. I think it's because you make sense. Your insides match your outsides. It all starts to fit together and make sense. Not perfectly, and that's fine. It's okay. There's also less internal fight. Guys, when we struggle with anxiety or confidence, we usually have a conscious or a subconscious war going on inside of ourselves. Half of us knows exactly what we feel, and the other half of us is like, should I trust that? I was always taught not to trust that. Mom got mad when I spoke how I felt at the dinner table, right? Or maybe you've been gaslit out of your reality for so long. I mean, I could go on, but I won't. But for an example, if like one of your core values is family, right? Well, decisions about your time and your boundaries or your career shifts are going to reflect that, hopefully. There'll be some congruence there. If not, you're not going to be okay. And so you start really working on that. And then the ripple effect starts to happen. Each decision, no matter how small it is, builds confidence and clarity for the next one. Confidence that you can actually follow through on something that you really believed in your heart, and it wasn't about anybody else, and it worked out okay. Or maybe it didn't, so it gave you clarity for the next one. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. If you practice, not perfectly, consistently making decisions in alignment with your values, that's really going to strengthen your ability to trust your instincts bit by bit, day after day. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about this. Reflect on how some of your past decisions have shaped where you are today. And that might be a little hard for some of you. Maybe think of some smaller, more benign ones. Think about how you feel about that now. Good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. Did those decisions reflect who you really are? Right? Because now that you have the wonderful power of hindsight and lived experience, you're like, if I could go back, would I have made the same decision knowing what I know now? We want to really focus on intentional decision making so that you can begin or continue to create a life that feels more authentic and meaningful for you. And you feel a lot less anxious and more grounded. Now, let's get practical about how to do this because I've been sounding pretty lofty. Start small. You hear me say that all the time. Start so small. Low-hanging fruit. Practice making low-stakes decisions to build momentum and trust in your process. Literally, people, I'm even talking about the outfit that you're going to wear tomorrow morning, okay? Whether you eat this or drink this or that, whether you go to bed at this time or that time, whether you answer that text message or not, whether you follow that little nudge that says turn down this street or go in this store or go up to this person. And just notice, like, just with curiosity, no judgment here. I mean it. And say, look at that. I had this urge to go in the store and I found something I've been looking for ages and I wouldn't even thought it would have been in that store. So pause and reflect, okay? Before you make a decision, I want you to ask yourself, okay, what do I truly think and feel about this? And hopefully you have time quietly by yourself to do that. Give yourself as much time as you possibly can in the situation. Away from other people, like away from conversations about it. And then, does this align with my beliefs and values? Why or why not? And watch yourself if you start rationalizing, because that'll be interesting. And then finally, what need or belief is driving this decision? And am I okay with that? If I have the need to be accepted, but I'm making a decision to be a part of a group that I don't align with all their values, what am I doing? Where's the fear? And I want you to reframe mistakes as just data points. They're data points for future decisions. Okay. You have to have a lot of compassion and a lot of neutrality with this. And a lot of, if you can, experimenting. Let me try this for a little bit and see how it goes. I want you to revisit your why regularly. Try to keep those values and passions top of mind when you're making choices. And here's the thing, if you haven't done this in the past, you want to create a new habit where that becomes automated over time. At first, it's exhausting, right? You have to okay, where's that list? I know my list of values is somewhere. Where is it? What are those things on there? But I think using vision boards or journaling or putting a note in front of you or affirmations can really help you slowly absorb them into your subconscious, okay? That's why that stuff works if you practice and practice and practice and keep it where you can see it. And then tell other safe people about what you're thinking about and your why. And then when you can get, hopefully, mirroring back from them, yeah, that makes sense. You want to do this because. Then that's really great because then you can absorb it. Do not do this with unhealthy people or people who don't share your values. That's going to be really hard. If someone doesn't do well with boundaries and you're trying to make a decision and it's based on, trying to have healthy boundaries, they can't support you. Someone else can, but not them. And then afterwards, reflect on how it felt to make that decision. Did it bring any clarity or relief? Would you learn? So decisions are hard, but they're also empowering, and each one helps you know yourself better. Each one helps you trust yourself more and have a life that aligns with what matters to you. Making decisions is one of the most powerful tools we have, but it can also be one of the most intimidating because there's consequences. Today, we talked about how decision-making strengthens your self-trust. And guess what? How cool. It engages the brain's natural reward systems and rewires it for resilience. If you're going to do this for no other reason, do it for that. We talked about how even small choices help clarify what you think, feel, and need. And that's why no choice is too small, right? Because ultimately you're building confidence and creating a stronger connection to your inner voice, which is the real you. We talked about how shame and trauma can really complicate this and make this so hard. And if you struggle with that and you have not gotten professional help, please do. You deserve to heal. And then grab some coaching so you can make better decisions going forward. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My encouragement is go make some small decisions right now, today, and see what you find out. And try to make sure that you are honoring your insides and what really matters to you, even in small ways. And get some safe people around you who are like-minded who can support that. If you need more help, sign up for a power hour with me or check out my course, Find Your Voice. Everything to connect with those two are in the show notes. I'm here to support you. The group is here to support you and cheer you on as you become more and more of the real you. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.